There are so many paths to becoming a therapist. And if you are overwhelmed, confused, or Googling in the middle of the night, you are not alone. I was once in your place. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Alice. I have been a therapist for about 10 years now. I am licensed in the states of Ohio and New. I am a trauma therapist trained in EMDR and internal family systems. I am also a PhD student in counselor education and supervision. My research focus is on exploring the relationship between vicarious resilience and wellness among mental health counselors. Today, I want to answer some of your questions about becoming a therapist. I am not going to get to all your questions, so this will be an ongoing conversation that we are going to have. You can drop your questions in the comment section or DM me your questions, and the questions may be fed next. Let's get into the questions. Can I become a therapist if I have anxiety or depression? Yes, you can become a therapist if you have anxiety or depression. Having a mental health condition does not mean you cannot be a great therapist. The most important thing here is that you seek help or anxiety or depression. That's very important because if you do not seek help, it can get in your way of providing quality care for your client. So, having a mental health condition does not stop somebody from becoming a therapist. I think it gives you best on experience. So, when you go into the field, you are not going in with what you were taught in class, but you are also going in with that lived experience. Also, I know a lot of therapists who struggle with depression and anxiety. And oftentimes, that is the reason why they became a therapist. They became the people that they needed for themselves in that moment. The second question, which I love, I am an introvert. Can I still be a good therapist? I love this question because I am an introvert. I am very introverted. And as an introvert, my superpowers are being comfortable with silence, being a great listener, being observant, because in my moment of quietness, I observe, I take everything in. I am very intuitive. I am also a soft, warm talker. And I think all of these things makes for a great therapist. And the other thing is the best way I regard this solitude, right? Solitude fills my cup versus extroverts, then they need other people to fill their cup. So as a therapist, silence is great. To be able to be comfortable with silence is a great tool in therapy so that it gives client the ability to pause, to reflect. So I think being an introvert can make you a great therapist. It can make you a phenomenal therapist. If you are comfortable with being an introvert, lean into it. That is your superpower. Okay. Can I be a therapist with a bachelor's degree? But it depends on multiple things. It depends on the country that you are in. If you are in America, it depends on the state that you are in and the type of license that you want to get. I know in the state of Ohio, people with bachelor's degree in social work can be therapists. And there is a downside to that because oftentimes a bachelor's degree in social work doesn't really prepare people to be therapists. There are some other countries that having a bachelor's degree, you can be a therapist with that. So it really depends on the country that you are in. If you ask for my recommendation, I would say the best degree to be a therapist would be a master's degree, really focusing on one specific area that you want to study and using that to become therapist. It is always important to check your state licensing board, the licensing board in your country. Those are the people that are going to give you the license. And it is very important that you focus on what they are looking for. What degree do I need to become a therapist? I think I answered some of this in the previous question where I said master's degree, right? In the US, you need a master's degree or most license, right? If you want to be an independent licensed person. So that could look like a licensed mental health counselor, a licensed masters of social work, right? A licensed marriage and family therapist, licensed school therapist. All those license requires one to have a master's degree. The minimum educational level for those degrees is a master's degree. Again, it is very important to check your state board. Be friends with your state board. If you are in the US, check the state board that you want to be licensed in because they have the authority to give you the license. So it's very important that you get to know the requirements of becoming a therapist in that state. What's the difference between a counselor, therapist, psychologist, and psychiatrist? Okay, so therapist is like a pop culture word, right? So therapist isn't like a legal term in any way. Because there can be a speech therapist, occupational therapist, massage therapist, nail therapist, hair therapist, different kind of therapist. So if you say therapist, what does that usually be? Oftentimes in the field of um psychotherapy, we would say psychotherapist. Again, all these things. So counselor, psychologist, and psychiatrist, it depends on the degree that you have. Psychiatrist is an MD, so that's a medical degree, right? A medical license, and they have prescription authority, so they can prescribe medication. Oftentimes in United States, psychiatrists do not really do therapy, right? So they may prescribe you medication, and then the subsequent sessions will be for medication management. So you may see them for 15 minutes. Each time you see them, they will ask you questions about the side effects of the medication. They would often recommend that you see a therapist. Psychologists, right? They have a psychology degree. So that's how they are psychologists. So a licensed psychologist, oftentimes in psychology, you need a PhD to be licensed in psychology. Psychologists do therapy. However, most of them that I know, they do assessment. So they would do like an ADHD evaluation, autism evaluation. Some of them may do bipolar evaluation, personality disorder, and then they will write recommendation or a treatment plan based on that evaluation that they did. And oftentimes that evaluation is very, very expensive. Sometimes it's hours to do that evaluation, but they also do provide psychotherapy, one-on-one therapy as well. Now, a counselor, I'm a counselor, right? I am a mental health counselor. So again, my degree is mental health counseling. There are school counselors. Their degree focused on school counseling. So that's the difference. There's also social workers, um, marriage and family therapists. All of those master's degree is the minimum that you need to be licensed. Psychologist, you need a PhD to be licensed. Psychiatrist is an MD in medicine. So MD degree, they prescribe medication. The next question. What's a day in the life of a therapist like? Okay. I'm going to answer this based on my experiences in the past because each therapist's day is going to look different. And your day also depends on multiple things. The settings, right? Where are you working? Are you in community mental health or are you in private practice? And then the number of clients that you see. So in a typical day, right? Therapists see clients and they write notes. Okay. So that is like simplifying it, right? We see client and then we write note. Seeing clients could be a duration between 45 minutes or an hour, once a week or sometimes twice a week for certain clients. So that's the day in the life, what it looks like, see clients and write it notes. However, there are other things that come in the day. Sometimes you're making calls to other organizations. If you work in community mental health and it's a specific program, sometimes you are interacting with the court system, school, parole, probation, family services. You may have interactors with them that way. Now, a day in my life, a day in my life looks different at the moment because I shared I recently lost my job. So, I have some clients that I see, very minimal clients that I see because I'm still taking in new client, majority. Then part of my time will be used for writing. I am writing a essay at the moment. So that is a priority for me in this moment. I am spending a lot of my time focusing on my research. And then part of the time I do some content creation, like as we are talking at the moment, right? And then I am building a mental health startup for African women and the companies that employ them. So part of my time is also to focusing on that, really doing strategic planning, envisioning what is that going to look like, trying to see if I can connect with other people to support me in that goal. But each therapist day will look different. However, there are some commonalities in all of that. Is being a therapist emotionally draining? Yes. Being a therapist is emotionally draining. As a therapist, right? As a psychotherapist, your instrument is yourself, right? Your body, your humanity, your personhood. That is the instrument. You have to listen, right? You have to listen. You have to be uh, present, emotionally, psychologically present in the session for your father. But that could take a lot from you. However, it doesn't mean it's not doable. And and it also depends on the clients that you have. As therapists, each one of us have clients that excite us, that fills us, um that we have certain clients that we can work with all day and not feel drained. Then there are some clients that may take a while from therapists. So I said I am a trauma therapist. Trauma is one of those things that emotionally drain therapists. However, for me, it's different. I like doing trauma work. It really excites me, right? Working with Black women excites me. Working with Black men who really want to get into therapy, that really makes me happy, makes me passionate. I have loved working with family, specifically mother, daughter, like mother and her daughter in therapy. That also excites me. So even with those things that excite me, that I'm really happy to work on, they can be emotionally draining because we are having deep and rich and conversation, peeling back the onion, really getting our feet in there. So yes, being a therapist is emotionally draining. And if you remember in the beginning of the session, I talked about my research focusing on vicarious resilience and wellness among mental health counselors. So that is an area that I'm really researching and finding ways to support other therapists. We often talk about burnout. We talk about compassion fatigue. We talk about vicarious trauma. What if that same therapy work that we do can have some positive impact on us? So stay tuned for my research. There's more on this topic that I love to talk about. Okay. All right. So the next question is I am a nurse who is considering mental health counseling. My goal is remote. Please advise. If you are a nurse, I'm going to take that you have a bachelor's degree in nursing. So with your bachelor's degree, you can apply to a master's program. So that could look like mental health counselor, like myself, social work, school counseling, if that's what you want to do. Some places do a combination of school counseling and mental health counseling. So you can look for those master's degree. You don't necessarily have to have a bachelor's in psychology to get into those programs. So you can look into master's program. These days, there are so many virtual online school because of COVID. So many programs are online. So It is up to you to do your research. Make sure the school is state accredited and CAPEP accredited. With that, with the CAPEP accreditation, some states do not necessarily require for the school to be CAPEP accredited. For example, I am licensed in New York and Ohio. In order for me to get a license in New York, the school that I went to had to be state accredited. It doesn't have to be CAPEP accredited. However, in Ohio, to be licensed, your school has to be state accredited. Um, sorry. However, in Ohio, if in Ohio, in order to be licensed, the school that you went to have to be CAPEP accredited. So it is very important that you do your due diligence, you do the research, you know the schools that are accredited, that are legit for you to attend. I usually say have about 3 schools to apply to. So there are so many online schools that you can look for. Oh, a lot, a lot. Okay. The last question is, do therapists ever cry in session? I love this question. Do therapists ever cry in session? I haven't cried in a session, but I can imagine there are therapists who have cried in session. I haven't cried in session, but I have cheered up in a session. I think I have shed a tear or two in a session. So when I think of crying may disrupt the session. So crying may be, visibly, crying. We know when somebody's crying versus when you have a tear or two. Of course, the most important thing here is the work that you are doing with your client. So is the crying going to get in the way of the work with your client? Is it going to interrupt or disrupt your work with your client? However, cheering up, for me, it's okay because therapy is a human experience, right? Being with a client is a human experience. And therapists, we are human. We have emotions. We have empathy. We have compassion. We feel the pain of our client. We feel the disappointment. We feel the frustration. So I have definitely shed a tear or two in a session. And my client didn't think of me. And my clients didn't look at me differently. They didn't think of me anyway. They actually found it helpful because there are times that that cheer could be that validation for that client that what you are going through, what happened to you. This is really sad. And you may be the only person that is validated for them, right? So I see that cheer as a communication that, hey, I see you, I hear, I validate your experience as a trauma therapist. Anyway, so that is all. So this is part one of asking questions about being a therapist. All right, ask your questions, send your questions in the comment section or in my DM. Let me know what you want to know about being a therapist. Being a therapist, building a business, PhD. Do you want to know more about writing personal statement, applying to schools? What do you want to know? Because I am always, always here to share my resource, right? I am a resource. I'm always here to help people. Thank you for watching. And if you haven't, please subscribe to this channel and take care of yourself. If you can, take care of somebody cheap and have a great day. If you cannot have a great day, you know what? Do not go around ruining somebody else's day. I will see you in my next video. Bye.